congratulate our winners, the red team and blue team, in a few days. Now, a very important topic on how to get into IT industry, path from internship to an expert. Ildar Sadikov and Ekaterina Nikulina will be speaking about SOC, Security Operating Center. And everybody will become an IT person. Hi everyone. How's the attitude? It's great to see you. Thank you for coming. Today, we would like to give you a lot of interesting information. I believe here we have people who already have experience, maybe study, maybe you already at an intern position. When you only begin your path, your way in operation security, information security, you started, but you don't really know where to go next. So Ekaterina will help us in terms of answering really important and frequent questions on what to do next, where to go next, and what to do. My name is Ildar Sadikov. I'm head of expertise development for cybersecurity and mentorship at Positive Technology. I'm Ekaterina Nikulina. I'm head of SOC at Standoff. I worked at SOC in Positive Technologies and I worked my way from an intern to an expert. So today, we would like to ask you a few questions. What kind of difficulties did you face when growing up? We will have a dialogue with good questions and even better answers. So, let us start when you are an intern or when you just begin. Katya, what kind of knowledge should a person have when you only make your first steps? Okay, so you have the presentation. It partially covers what I'm about to say. First, we have to say that in the beginning, you need only fundamentals about different areas of industries, and nobody expects an intern or a junior that they will be experts in networks or a god of Windows or so on. Sometimes I come across, I'm not sure who creates those resumes for a beginner information security person, and it's basically a few pages of lots of information security and technical stack. And when I see this, well, nobody knew when they started, but for some reason they demand it from younger generation. What we want in the beginning is the understanding of main network technologies, the difference of CTP from UDP, what levels are used for main protocols, and for settings, what kind of attacks are mainly used in cybersecurity and how to track and detect them. For Linux, it's basic administration and learn about the defense mechanisms. And it would be great if an intern has some understanding how those operating systems can be used for hacking activities. How can they escalate privileges, where they can steal personal data from, and so on. I think it is important to have basic understanding of defense technologies, first of all, because we as SOC people need to know our own arsenal. We need to learn about EDR, SAP, sandboxes, CMs. We need to have some initial understanding what's the difference between them and how they are used. So, Ildar, maybe I can share my own experience, maybe I can tell about my story. Okay, when I had my first test, and then I had my first interview for internship at SOC at Positive Technologies, let's be frank, I was not good at networks, I was not good at operating systems, and I was studying at the university at the same time. But since I was going through the Positive Technologies courses, I knew basic understanding of CM systems, and I learned about micro and macro attacks. I knew what and why malicious users do. And because of that, I was able to handle the test better compared to other people. We were about 5 to 6 candidates, and I was selected. Maybe other candidates knew Linux better, maybe they knew networks better, but learning about attacks was more important. Then we asked Yekaterina on what an expert should know, what kind of knowledge do we need to get right here, right now. And actually, you can use this QR code and take a look at the program created by my students, by my colleagues. It's a PT Start program. Maybe you've heard about it. I think the majority of people here probably heard about this. And please raise your hand if you believe that that's an absolutely amazing program. I completely agree. So, next. You became a part of SOC. What do you do next? What do you want to improve? What kind of skills do you want to acquire? And where do you get this knowledge from? So what and where do we study? I think we do not have higher education here. We do not have universities. It's not because we forgot about it. It's not because we think it's not important. It is important. But the truth is, and experienced teachers would completely agree with me, you cannot be a fully fledged information security expert only if you graduate from a university. You need to get relevant experience through practice. And where do you get this practice? First is get to the interactive platforms. Here on this slide, we have a few platforms. Try Hack Me, Cyber Defenders, Let's Defend, different platforms where you can test. Obviously, we have our own proprietary platform, but the point here is that they have practical tasks for different areas of information security, for CM, incident response, reverse engineering problems, and so on. Even before you start working in information security, you can uncover this internal kitchen, so to say, of information security. Cyber Bonds is obviously very important. It's our proprietary platform. And maybe Eldar can talk about this. So imagine you are a student and you've never seen an interface with EZE, with CM or other defensive measures which are used by experts. But here you can actually touch this, you can use them and to try and solve different problems which are solved by first, second, even third line for incidents investigation. You can do this on your own. You can also consult with lots of different materials. Maybe you solve them, maybe you can raise your hand and say, yes, I did this and I did a lot. During the last 3 to 4 years, those platforms became more and more popular. And now you have even more capabilities to get closer to the level of the experts. And you start not when you graduate from the university, but you can start working when you are in the university.
Right. And at standoff Cyberbones, you can see real cases from previous standoffs, and the recent is happening right now. And as what happens at standoff is very realistic, you can actually imagine that you observe real cases, and if in your company or your organization happens something like that, you will be able to know what to do with that. Okay, so knowing what to do and where to study for that, I wanted to just say a couple of things about internships and courses. I highly recommend free courses from cybersec companies. For instance, PT has several programs on how to operate PT products. It is free of charge. It's available and accessible for students. And if after university you already have experience of working with real information security systems, that gives you a good competitive advantage. And of course, in terms of internships, when I started out, there were very few of those, and right now, almost every cybersec company offers a handful of them. And even from your second or third year of the university, you can start attending those to get understanding of different specializations within cybersec. And here's the QR code where you'll find the compilation of the most popular internships with different cybersec companies, and not only internships, there are links to different platforms that you can use for practice. And I actually spent a lot of time compiling that list, but please feel free to use it. Okay, so we learned it. We came to a company, we start with the position of an intern, but how you can actually go from being an intern to a junior analyst or an engineer of the Security Operations Center. Could you please tell us that part of your path? And maybe that work is somewhat different. Maybe there are specific tasks that you solve there. Well, how did I convert from an intern into an analyst? Probably I need to talk about soft skills there. To grow beyond the position of an intern, you need to really communicate with your team and your mentor. When you start out in a company, there is this fear of making a mistake, of doing something wrong, of forgetting something, fear of asking questions because they can be perceived as stupid. And that's the wrong approach, and probably you'll agree to that, because you need to ask your mentor where to go for him to or her to direct you to build your trajectory. And has it happened to you that someone refused to answer your question? No, never. And I'm a perfectionist, and us perfectionists, we always hover between good perfectionism and bad perfectionism that actually deters you because it's baseless. So it's important to overcome your fears. It's important to not to be afraid to ask, to try out things, and to ask for something, to a more complex task, and that will be a growth point. What was the task that was most difficult for you, or maybe a difficult case when you were starting out? I actually had this case. That was my first day as a permanent employee as a junior analyst with PT. I was just out of my internship and I joined the team, and that was my first duty. So what is the task of the junior SOC analyst? Is to monitor alerts and perform primary validation. Is it a real alert or is it a false positive? At the end of the day, I see an alert. I look at the activity and I suspect something bad. So legitimate utility is used, but it's as if it is doing something bad. And this activity, actually, it was happening at the computer of the IT expert. And we were already operating as a service SOC, and we were at the service of our client. And we know that IT experts in a company, they have wider powers compared to other employees. If, for instance, an accountant launches a PowerShell or uses PS exec on his or her computer, then it's an alert. For an IT expert, that's permissible. So I'm looking at that alert and I was thinking, like, is it good or bad? And that's my first day. That was my first day, and I was actually afraid of many things. And I was thinking, like, what if I bring this to my colleagues and they say, well, that's an obvious false positive. But then finally I pulled myself together and showed it to a senior colleague, and the group actually penetrated to this company. They've been operating that for a month already, and they hadn't been seen before that. So during my first day, I did something that SOC analysts sometimes wait for years.
Okay.
Right, just imagine she detected an attack during her first day. Okay, we've talked a lot about SOCs, but cybersec is very wide. And if you're an intern within an SOC, that's okay. But what if you specialize in some other domain? Do you think that you would love to develop yourself as an SOC expert, or would you go to some other direction? Answer. Well, the good thing with cybersec is that it is very multipolar, and there are many domains that merge from one to the other. SOC experts, they know many things, but at a very superficial level, and they grow their knowledge horizontally. The SOC experience can help you with specializing in something else, in threat hunting, forensics. You can become a digital detective, but that never tempted me. SOC is something I like, and I'd like to debunk one more myth about SOC being a routine work and that there is no career there. No, you can grow there as an expert, and you can become an SOC lead. You can structure processes, manage teams, and so on. Right. Not everyone copies or repeats Ekaterina's trajectory. And we saw many people who started out with SOC, with understanding everything but at a superficial level, but then you dig deeper in a specific domain. So we decided to map different domains to just identify different domains, and then you can use internships and try out working in different domains and see the things you like or don't. So, at this stage, when you're in a young specialist and you work with an SOC and you work at the front line, and then you want to specialize in something, but what do you do next? Do you go to the second line of defense or the third line? But how to become a real expert, to be proud of yourself? Okay, so what makes an SOC expert a real expert? First of all, it's the experience. It's not for nothing that we say that you learn from your own mistakes and not from someone else's mistakes. After working through several projects, after meeting and facing different difficulties, after solving practical cases, you accumulate experience and you become a real expert who can tackle real projects. So it's all about experience, what makes an expert. Secondly, of course, it's specialization. You can't be expert in everything, just physically. So you need to pick several domains you're most interested in, that you like most, and dig deeper there. Maybe it's threat hunting. So you detect threats and you write rules for the ISS. Or you can go for forensics, collecting incidents and response measures, or reverse engineering. So you need to do something you really like. There is nothing worse than doing something you don't like, and cybersec is not the domain where you can work from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. and forget about it. Usually, no, you remain alert throughout the day, you learn new things, you read new things, but if you don't like what you do, it's going to make things hard for you. Okay, and actually people often think that SOC is boring work, you just look at the system 24/7, but what makes it interesting for you? Where is the aspect that drives you most to become a real expert? Well, I think I'm actually inspired by being useful. Of course, the majority of the activity that we are engaged in is detecting false positives. That's legitimate. But then there are those few cases when we catch a real hacker before this hacker exploits vulnerabilities and creates unacceptable incidents for the company that we protect. And then it's important for me to generate some content and create some detection rules on my own and helping my colleagues in this way. That's important for me. Right. And then imagine you can look at how hackers operate. Where can you actually do that? Either through a company that is being hacked or during standoff when people come to hack a thing on purpose. How can you access a standoff? There is a cyber bonus where you can come and look at what hackers did. That's a unique opportunity for any SOC expert on this level to see something illegitimate being performed and to see how that situation evolves. And I think that's a great growth point for any person. Right. I actually am in charge of an international SOC at the moment, and my team monitors everything that we get from the participants at the senior level, and it's incredible to see what vectors they discover sometimes and what approaches they use to prevent unacceptable events. And sometimes it's very interesting to see how Blue Team operates and how they run investigations. Right. And actually tomorrow we're going to speak from the professional scene stage with colleagues, but yes, we will be talking about a case when we discovered several interesting utilities where hackers penetrated the infrastructure. It was impossible to detect them. And it's interesting that they did the things that even experts, they were seeing that some activity is going on, but it looks as if it is still okay. And we're going to look at this case tomorrow. That's a very rare, a very interesting case. And these are complex and interesting utilities that you can use for your learning, for your studies. Unfortunately, we are limited in time, and now we would like to switch to practical recommendations and advice about what you can do here and now. And here I would like to ask Yekaterina, because she has completed this path, and it's always interesting to talk to a person who completed a path on their own, because she has valuable experience, and it's important and interesting to ask specific questions. So, here are several points. How can we use the company's resources effectively if you're already working in a company? Let's take positive technologies. Okay, in PT. Oh, maybe not in PT. I only have PT's example. I only can cite examples from my favorite company. Well, mentorship, I've already talked about that. Very often in cybersec companies, the team is such, for instance, in my SOC, we have unique experts with unique Blue Team expertise. And just sitting next to them and listening to how they discuss working matters and issues, you can already develop your knowledge by that. Working in a company, do complete everything you can complete, do interact with your team, do not evade from communicating more with your senior colleagues, and no one is going to say that you're asking silly questions and you're boring them. So it's important to really get the most of your community. And also, colleagues like a lot when you research things. And just imagine, if you have a question, but you run a pre-research, you look at one utility, but then you look at it from several sides, and you detected some nuances of it, and then you bring this case to your colleagues, they will look at you with different eyes. I remember my early days with my company. I remember that people were looking at me as at a person who knows nothing. But then when you show your results, when you research things and you analyze things, then you start talking to the other experts on their language. CyberSec is probably this specific sphere where everyone, if they understand that they are talking with this other person in the same language, they will be open to you. And I think you can only confirm that. 100%. And about other things that you can do now already, probably if we have people who do not work anywhere yet, you can start practicing. You can register with Cyberbonus or Try and Hack Me and practice there. Then look at the open internship opportunities. And even if you don't get there from the first try, don't be discouraged by that. Another real case. A wonderful colleague also was studying at my department, and he took an internship with us. He wanted to detect attacks and work in SOC, but he didn't get through. But that didn't discourage him. So on the second try, he got in, and I think for already 18 months, he writes network detection rules and develops expertise on our products. So don't be discouraged by failures, and don't be afraid of trying many times. Right, I know a guy who actually got in after the fourth try. Just imagine that. The first try, second, and the third. He really opted for one specific domain, and he only got in on the fourth try. And then there are several aspects about the mistakes that newly coined experts make. If you know about these typical mistakes, you can work on them and actually just avoid making them at all. Ekaterina, can you think of some mistakes you did?
Эффектно. Вот. Ну, тут, наверное, есть две крайности.
Well, probably here we can talk about two extremes. First is the fear of making a mistake. You just do nothing because you are afraid of everything, and you do not take up complex tasks because you're not sure whether you would be able to accomplish them. Without practice, you will not grow. The other extreme is when fresh specialists overestimate their level of knowledge. They do not listen to their mentors and senior colleagues. I didn't do that, but I saw such instances. That's wrong as well. So you need to listen to someone more experienced than you, because that helps. And finally, teamwork, soft skills. When a person isolates themselves from the others, when they do not communicate with the community, that's wrong as well. You need to develop your soft skills. You need to be able to convey your point of view, your ideas. If you isolate yourself from the community, it will make it more difficult for you to work within a team. And SOC is teamwork. And then, if you're still at the university, please raise your hands who are still students. Okay, quite a lot of you here. So if you're just out from your university, actually your universities are visited by great experts, not only to give you some information, but to hunt for best and most talented students. And that person, for instance, who got in only from the fourth time, well, if you can avoid that if you use opportunities within your university, because these people can invest in you and help you. So, let's sum up. Ekaterina and myself, we compiled some materials for you. Please take a picture of these QR codes to use these materials, and we continuously update all these lists. And under these QR codes, we keep a certain list right now, but we keep updating them. Please use them. We've spent quite a lot of time on that, but we did that for you to be able to make use of it. And we came to really grow as many great experts of you as we can, because we want to have more wonderful colleagues that we will be working with. And if we have wonderful guys who are inspired and who are eager to work, it's very pleasant, it's very great to work with such people.
Ильдар, спасибо.
Ekaterina, thanks so much. Thank you, Eldar, guys. Thank you all. We wish you every success. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. Please stay here. Once again, Eldar Saldikov, Ekaterina Nikolina, Soft Security, SOC Security Operations Center. I really liked your presentation today. And today we also had a presentation by Makar Lekhnov, who, based on standoff, created a simulator for the red team, for the blue team, to train purple teams. Exactly what you were talking about. It's great that you belong to different generations. But I think this very athletic guy created a very strong impression. And you, as experienced experts, you shared your knowledge with us. And I really loved the part about soft skills, because all the restrictions are in your head, and it's important to remove them. And that's where we become useful. So let's continue moving on in that direction. SOC from PT. You're great. Thank you.